25334 Poderio in Ramona. I'm on the roof now, obviously, and sure enough, we do have those asphalt shingles underneath the solar panels, just like we knew. We call that the picture frame solar install. And best waterproofing, also the best aesthetics, because it keeps the solar panels from looking like too tall off of the roof. This cricket between the garage and the main home is a torch down material, and it is, still appears to be in okay condition. I think it's older than the picture frame. I don't think they redid this when the solar was installed, but it's not original with the house. These flat roofs never last as long as concrete tile or asphalt shingle, and so I'm guessing that at some point this was redone. I see that a lot of these tiles were glued in place. There's a little dab of glue right there. And so when this was redone, the first two courses of tile were pulled out and then glued back in place instead of nailed back in place. Very difficult to nail them with the row ahead of it or the course uphill from it already installed. That's what we call a mortar flashing. It's a ball of cement down at the base of these penetrations. This one has a metal flashing, which is a good sign, but the rest of them around the roof have the mortar flashing, and those have failed. Looks like that has been coated with mastic throughout the years as it has caused issues. If we look up here, that's a heat vent just like this one here. But that's original, and we can see that has a mortar flashing on it. What that tells me is that the shingles only go just barely past the solar panels. I would guess one course of tile above the solar panels. So there still is a strip of roofing up there along the ridge that is original with the home from the 80s, and the waterproofing is long gone and kind of on borrowed time. We can tell that the mortar at the ridge was not redone. That little bowl is new, whereas everything underneath the ridge tiles is really old, so that's never been disturbed. What else was worth pointing out up here? I was gonna try and be optimistic and climb over to the chimney, but then I noticed there were a couple broken tiles, and I added one to it. That one's got my name on it. Then there's one up there in the corner and one right there, and then a repaired one there. Those ones don't have my name on it. Neither does this one. This one right at the top of the ladder. I saw that before stepping up here. I was trying to just step right to the torch down and skip the tile. Anyways, at the front of the garage, here at the edge of the roof, we see that water does get underneath the tile because it comes around the cricket and it's underneath these tiles, but that torch down is there, and so that's not a problem. The torch down goes to right here, and then they curled it up to catch the water. But coincidentally, this is, I think, the only piece of rotten fascia I have found on the home, and it's because of how much water is coming around this corner off of that cricket. If we look over here, what they've done is the fascia is actually mounted an inch higher than the roof surface, and that is to hold the tile at the same angle as every tile behind it. If there wasn't a 1 inch, basically what we call a tile riser, then the angle of the tiles would change at the very first course. Unfortunately, what that does is that when water gets underneath the tile, there's a big lip back here, and it ends up causing problems over the years. We can see that there is only one layer of paper. Nowadays, building code requires a thicker paper than that. It's called 40 pound, and requires 2 layers of it. So there's also no drip edge. There's no metal drip edge right here. I'll show you what I mean by that at the front of the house. If we look underneath the eaves, we've got stucco, and what we're looking for underneath the eaves is any stained stucco from water coming through it, and all the stucco looks pretty darn good. Majority of the fascia looks good. This is what we call a gable end vent. It's either to vent the garage or vent the attic. We come out here to the front, and these nice E vents here are a really good sign. That one's got a bunch of junk in there, but that's normal. And then we also need rooftop vents, and I don't see very many attic exhaust vents on this roof. So that's what we're missing. When this roof does go back together, we'll be sure to ventilate it properly, and it is supposed to keep the house more energy efficient in the summertime. Here we've got a little piece of shiny metal. That is, although that's an odd piece of metal to use as drip edge, it's an attempt at least. So my guess is that there was a repair here at one time, and then we come over to the other side of the garage, and the drip edge that was used looks different, which tells me that that was another repair done at a different time. Not sure if you can make that out, but that's a different piece of drip edge. And then we also see a big stack of underlayment, or the felt underneath there. So they just added multiple layers to this little area because I'm guessing that it was a leak in the past. Now we're at the back of the home where the patio cover was built, and I'm gonna stay off of it, but if we look underneath the tile, sure enough, that underlayment there is as old as the house, and it is beyond its life expectancy, and unfortunately no longer waterproof. So the back of the house has been untouched. The mortar flashings are present up there on those 3 penetrations. What we see at the edge here is that there is a piece of drip edge that has been added. Excuse me. Excuse me. But what we really need is a transition piece to run from underneath this last course of tile and be glued down to the top of the patio cover, basically covering that whole transition there. So, I mean, I'm surprised that it doesn't leak in more spots. You got a tiny little slope on the patio cover, so water does travel away from the roof, but not that much. Wind-driven rain, I would see other leaks kind of developing over the years.